Hello everyone and welcome back to another top 5. So for today's video we're going to be talking about 5 heinous murders committed by kids. There was a time when we thought it was unimaginable that a child could be capable of murder. What was once a rare event that shook society to its core now seems to be a commonplace. Such a topic brings up much debate about why kids kill and what we should do with children who kill. Theories about why kids kill include violence in video games, television shows, and movies, as well as the lack of positive role models, love, and nurturing. While some think the focus should be on rehabilitating the child, others think children, like some of their adult counterparts, are able to commit serious acts of horror and need to be punished severely for their crimes. For number 5, we have Luke Mitchell, Scotland, age 14. This case has the distinction of being Scotland's longest single defendant trial and at the same time the longest sentence to be given to a minor. On June 30th, 2003, 14-year-old Jody Jones was viciously murdered by her boyfriend, 15-year-old Luke Mitchell. That evening, Jody left her home in East Houses, Scotland around 6:30 p.m., telling her parents she was going to meet up with Luke. When Jody failed to return home, her parents reported her missing around 10:30 p.m. Her parents and Luke began looking for her. Luke discovered her body on a path which ran from her home in East Houses to Mitchell's home in New Battle. She was found stripped of her clothing, bound, her body mutilated. While details have not been released publicly, the judge who presided over the case said it was the worst he had ever seen. Suspicion immediately fell upon Luke, but it took several months for the police to gather enough evidence to arrest him. He was finally arrested on April 14th, 2004. Though the case was circumstantial, a guilty verdict was reached on January 21st, 2005. He was sentenced to a minimum of 20 years before he would be eligible for parole. During his incarceration, in what can only be described as bizarre, a video of Mitchell taking and passing a polygraph from his jail cell was posted on YouTube. He also filed requests to have satanic materials, including the Satanic Bible and the Devil's Notebook, citing religious reasons. His requests were denied. Mitchell still maintains his innocence and is fighting to have his case heard again. Number 4. Sajal, Barul, India, age 15 to 16. In one of the most horrific murder cases in India's history, 15-year-old Sajal Barul and 4 of his friends murdered his family. They said it was an act of revenge for the abuse Sajal suffered at home. The night of terror began on November 22, 1993, when the 5 youths hacked Sajal's father, stepmother, and half-brother to death over the span of several hours. After committing the murders, the teens cleaned their weapons, ate snacks from the fridge, and left money on the counter as payments for the snacks. After his friends left, Sajal stayed at home all night alone with his mutilated family. He called his neighbor the next day while his friends returned to school. He initially told the police that people had broken in, knocked him unconscious, and killed his family. However, under heavy police questioning, he admitted what he had done and named his accomplices. The teens were arrested, tried as adults, convicted, and received the death penalty. Their death sentences were later overturned, and they received life imprisonment. Sajal managed to escape prison by faking an illness in 2001 and was only apprehended again in 2003 after committing a robbery. He later tried to commit suicide in prison by attempting to set himself on fire. In 2010, Sajal and his attorneys filed a plea under the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection of Children Abandonment Act of 2006. Sajal was released on bail pending his new hearing. He was granted permanent release. That release, however, lasted only a few years as he was arrested again in 2011 for allegedly committing another robbery. Number 3, we have Eric Borel, France, age 16. In the days leading up to his tragic event, Eric Borel told his classmates of had enough. He expressed his wish to commit suicide, but before he did, he was going to kill a few people. No one is sure what exactly made Eric snap, but there is speculation that his stepfather beat him, his mother was controlling, and he just had enough. On the evening of September 23, 1995, Eric entered the kitchen in his family's home in Solius Point, aimed a .22 caliber rifle at his stepfather, and shot him 4 times. He then beat him in the head with a hammer. Eric then walked into the family room where his 11-year-old half-brother was watching television and killed him in the same manner. He cleaned up the mess and waited for his mother to come home from church. As soon as his mother entered the home, he shot her once in the head, killing her. Eric cleaned up again, covered the bodies with sheets, and packed a book bag with supplies. Then he took the gun, filled his pockets with bullets, and left the family home. At around 7 a.m., Eric arrived at his friend's house in Hughes, approximately 6 kilometers from his home, where he and his friend got into an argument. When the friend turned to walk back into the house, Eric shot and killed him. Eric then proceeded to walk through the community, shooting people at random. About half an hour later, his killing spree started. Police arrived and surrounding Eric, who took the .22 caliber rifle and shot himself in the forehead. Witnesses later remarked how calm Eric was when he pointed the gun and opened fire on his victims. He killed 13 people that day, including his family. 2 more victims later died in the hospital from their wounds. He wounded 4 others. For number 2, we have Kevin Madden and Timothy Ferriman, Canada, age 16. Kevin Madden, his friend Timothy Ferriman, and another friend who cannot be named due to Canadian laws, was hanging out at Kevin's house on November 25th, 2003. They called Ferriman's girlfriend, who decided to tape the call once the boys started talking about committing a mass murder. After the phone call, the boys drank some wine that they found in the house and began to vandalize the home. When Kevin's 12-year-old brother Jonathan entered the room the boys were in, Ferriman handed Kevin a knife and egged him on to attack his brother. Kevin stabbed his brother so viciously it severed both his voice box and carotid artery. He drowned in a pool of his own blood. The boys moved Jonathan's body to the basement where Kevin and Jonathan's father came home. He was attacked with a knife and baseball bat, but was able to flee the home with only minor injuries. All 3 boys were arrested shortly afterward. The first trial resulted in a mistrial due to Ferriman's girlfriend committing perjury. The second trial resulted in guilty verdicts for 2 of the boys and an acquittal for the third. Kevin Madden was found guilty of first-degree murder in the death of his brother and attempted murder for the attack on his father. Timothy Ferriman was found guilty of manslaughter, and the third boy was acquitted. The sentence occurring on September 29, 2006, with the judge stating that the boys will be sentenced as adults, allowing their names to be now made public, as well as the name of their families and the victim. Kevin was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for the first 10 years. His first 2 years were served in a youth facility. Then he was transferred to an adult prison. Because Ferriman seemed remorseful, he was sentenced to a youth facility for 2 years, less a day, and 3 years of probation. For number 1, we have Melinda Loveless, Laurie Tackett, Toni Lawrence, and Hope Rippey, U.S., age 15 to 18. Melinda Loveless was jealous of their friendship forming between 12-year-old Shanda Renee Charreur and her former girlfriend Amanda Hervin, so the 16-year-old decided to do something about it. On the evening of January 10th, 1992, 4 teenage girls, Melinda Loveless, Laurie Tackett, Toni Lawrence, and Hope Rippey, hatched a plot for Loveless to seek revenge against Charreur. The 4 girls drove in Tackett's car to Charreur's home. Loveless had Lawrence and Rippey go to the door, advising Charreur that they're friends of Hervin, saying that Hervin wanted to meet up with her that evening. Charreur told the girls that her parents were still awake, but not to come back later once they were asleep, and she would sneak out of the house. The girls went back to the Charreur's home around 12:30 a.m. Tackett and Rippey went to get her while Loveless hid in the back seat, clutching a knife under a blanket. Once the vehicle pulled out of the driveway, Loveless jumped out from the back seat. That is when the night of unspeakable torture began. Loveless held the knife to Charreur's throat and began accusing her of having sexual relationship with Hervin. They drove to a garbage dump where Loveless and Tackett pulled Charreur out of the vehicle and began to torture her. The 2 other girls stayed in the car, refusing to participate. Charreur was forced to strip naked as the girls beat her and attempted to slash her throat with a knife, but the knife was too dull. Rippey then came out of the car and held Charreur down so Loveless and Tackett could take turns stabbing her. They strangled her until she fell unconscious. Once unconscious, the girls put her back in the back of the vehicle. Charreur later began to scream, so Tackett went to this truck and began beating Charreur with a tire iron until she was unconscious again. She then sodomized her with the tire iron when she cried out for her mother. The girls drove to Tackett's home where they had snacks, drank soda, and laughed about what they had just done, all while Sharer lay unconscious in the trunk. The girls then decided to go to the gas station. They poured gasoline on the vehicle and also filled up a Pepsi bottle with more. They drove to a field where Tackett and Rippey took Sharer out of the trunk, wrapped her in a blanket, and carried her into the field. They poured gasoline on her while she was still alive and set her on fire. Later that day, 2 hunters found her body. Later that evening, accompanied by her parents, Lawrence went to the sheriff's office and confessed to everything that had happened. The girls were arrested and took plea deals. Lawrence served 9 years and was released in 2000. Her parole ended in 2002. Rippey served 14 years and was on parole until 2011. Tackett and Loveless had their 60-year sentences reduced to 35 years. They are eligible for parole in 2022. Loveless currently is one of the best dog trainers in the ICAN program, a program that has inmates train dogs for service. One of the puppies Loveless trained was donated by Shanda's mother in honor of her daughter and for a new beginning for Melinda. But that's all for today's video, guys. If you enjoy, please do rate, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next video, Saturday, 10 a.m.
I get it until the sunrise. Going 90 in a 65. Windows roll down.